We need him gone before Christmas, or we bury him in fines until he forecloses. They didn't know I was standing 10 feet away, pretending to sort junk mail. They didn't know I'd spent 30 years reading property lines like other men read bedtime stories. And they definitely didn't know their brand new clubhouse was sitting 3 feet onto my land. The HOA president thought I was just another quiet retiree. A widower in waiting. A soft target with thinning hair and a paid-off house. She was wrong. My name is Garrett Mills. My wife Linda and I bought our retirement home in Willowbrook Estates with cash after 4 decades of saving. We wanted tomatoes in the garden, wood shavings in my workshop, peace. Instead, we got citations. First, it was my workshop, aesthetic violation. Then Linda's vegetable garden, unauthorized agricultural activity. Then fines for commercial manufacturing, because I sold a single coffee table to a neighbor. The violations stacked like bricks in a wall they were building around us. By October, the fines crossed $2,000. Foreclosure was mentioned casually, like weather. And then I overheard that whisper. Gone by Christmas. That's when I stopped being a polite homeowner and started being a surveyor again. One afternoon, I dusted off my old transit level and began measuring boundaries that hadn't been checked in years. That's when I found it. 3 feet and 2 inches of their clubhouse. 21 feet of their parking lot. All on my land. They wanted a war of paperwork. Fine. But they forgot one thing. I don't lose wars that are fought with documents. And what I uncovered next didn't just threaten their board seats. It threatened prison. The harassment didn't slow down after that whisper. It accelerated. Violation notices arrived weekly, then twice a week. Trash cans out too early. Grass visually inconsistent. Garden hose disrupting aesthetic continuity. Each fine small enough to seem petty. Together crushing. Linda stopped sleeping. I'd catch her standing at the window, watching headlights pass like they were scouting us. When a county inspector showed up claiming someone had filed repeated complaints about commercial manufacturing, I knew this wasn't random. The inspector leaned close after reviewing my permits. Same woman calls every week. That confirmed it, coordinated. So I started digging quietly. Public records showed something interesting. The HOA president, Vivian Thornfield, had a real estate firm. Over the last 2 years, 3 homeowners had been fined heavily, then sold in panic. All 3 properties were later listed by her agency. Coincidence? Maybe. Then I discovered her backyard deck had 0 permits on file. I filed a formal complaint. 3 days later, a county official stood on her patio with a clipboard. Her smile disappeared after that. The next move was strategic. An emergency HOA meeting. New rule proposal. All workshops must be hidden behind 8-foot privacy fencing, professionally installed. For my lot, roughly $5,000. Motion carried. Except they forgot something called a grandfather clause. My workshop predated the rule. Legally protected. When I said that out loud in front of neighbors, the room shifted. She didn't expect resistance. That night, Mrs. Patterson whispered something else. There's a car parked across from your house every evening. So I installed cameras. The footage caught Vivian's assistant measuring my fence at 11 p.m. Then came the big one. A survey report from her former business partner claiming my fence encroached 2 feet onto HOA land. Immediate removal required. $10,000 fine. They thought I'd panic. Instead, I pulled out my own equipment. His numbers were fiction. My fence sat safely within my property. But during remeasurement, I confirmed something devastating. The clubhouse wasn't just close. It was trespassing. 3 feet into my lot. They built it 5 years ago. That meant 5 years of unauthorized commercial use. Under state law that creates liability, rent, damages, interest. Conservative estimate, 6 figures. I hand-delivered a demand letter. The retaliation exploded. Daily violations. Threats of special assessments. Rumors spread through anonymous flyers accusing me of destroying property values. Linda found one taped to our mailbox. She didn't cry. She started analyzing printer ink patterns. The paper matched Vivian's real estate office stationery. And then something darker happened. A fake emergency utility worker showed up at dawn, claiming a gas leak. He tried accessing my electrical panel. Cameras caught everything. License plate traced back to Vivian's boyfriend. Now we weren't in HOA territory. We were in criminal territory. But she kept escalating. False police report. Noise complaint timed during Linda's chemotherapy appointment. Yes, chemotherapy. We had kept her breast cancer private. Vivian used it as leverage. That was the moment I stopped seeing this as petty corruption. This was cruelty. And cruelty makes people sloppy. Because what Linda found next ended everything. Before we won, we nearly lost. The fines crossed $6,000. Certified letters arrived thick and heavy, legal language, foreclosure timelines. Linda whispered one night, maybe we should sell. That broke me more than any violation. Because that's what they wanted. Pressure until surrender felt like relief. Neighbors grew distant, the flyers worked. People avoided eye contact. Then a private investigator began parking across from our house every morning at 6. Camera lens pointed at our yard. Click, click, click. It felt like living under surveillance. One evening, HOA Treasurer Martin showed up with a settlement offer. They would buy our property at fair market value. 20% below actual value. Quick closing. He admitted, while sweating, that the board was worried about legal exposure. I recorded everything. But even with evidence mounting, stress was winning. Linda's hair had begun thinning from chemo. She tried to hide it with scarves. One morning after treatment, she sat at the kitchen table staring at another violation notice. Her hands trembled. "They're going to outlast us," she said softly. And for the first time, I wasn't sure she was wrong. Then came the breaking point. Vivian filed another police report claiming I'd threatened her. Deputy arrived during Linda's book club. 8 retired teachers watching as law enforcement questioned me. Humiliating. Even though footage proved I'd been alone in my workshop, at the time, she claimed I made threats. Still, doubt creeps in when authority knocks on your door enough times. The legal fight would be expensive. HOA insurance wouldn't cover intentional misconduct, but lawsuits drag on. And then we found it. In shredded documents recovered from Vivian's trash. 8 months of meeting minutes. My name listed 17 times. Priority target, foreclosure track. They had a developer ready to buy my lot once we were forced out. This wasn't harassment. It was a business model. But here's the part that felt like defeat. Those minutes also revealed they knew about the clubhouse encroachment from the beginning. And they buried it. They were confident, connected, protected. For a moment, I wondered if powerful people simply get away with things. If justice was just a story we tell ourselves. But Linda looked at me across that paper-covered table and said 5 words. Then we burn it down. Not the building. The system. Legally. We stopped reacting. We started planning. Our neighbor Bob, a retired corporate attorney, reviewed the reconstructed minutes. His expression changed slowly. "This isn't a dispute," he said. "It's fraud. We built a strategy. Simultaneous actions. Quiet title lawsuit. Demand for back rent. Harassment claims. Open meeting violations. Then the trap. The annual HOA meeting. 47 residents packed the clubhouse, ironically sitting on my land. A local reporter attended. Vivian called the meeting to order with forced confidence. I stood, presented professional survey maps, GPS coordinates, measurements precise to the inch. Gasps filled the room. Bob read excerpts from the meeting minutes aloud. Foreclosure plans, financial kickbacks, deliberate harassment strategy. People recognized their own experiences inside those pages. Anger replaced fear. Motion to remove the board was called. Passed 43-2. But it didn't stop there. Deputy present confirmed false reporting investigation. County opened review into fraudulent amendments to HOA bylaws. Insurance carrier denied coverage for intentional misconduct, meaning board members were personally liable. Settlement negotiations followed. They didn't fight long, because the evidence wasn't emotional. It was documented. Six-figure liability reduced through mediation. Public apology entered into record. Board dissolved. Vivian listed her house within days. Left quietly. But the true consequence wasn't financial. It was reputation. Real estate licensing review initiated. Civil claims filed by other residents. For someone who built power through intimidation, public exposure was worse than fines. And the clubhouse. We negotiated an easement agreement. Market rate. Annual payment to the Community Improvement Fund. From trespass to tenant. That shift was poetry. Peace returned slowly. Linda's health improved once the stress lifted. Her oncologist even commented on the change. The neighborhood felt different without fear hovering in the air. Workshops reopened. Gardens flourished. People waved again. The settlement funds helped create a homeowner protection reserve. Transparency rules adopted. Independent audits required. Open meeting compliance mandatory. What started as one couple being pushed out became structural reform. And me. I went back to building furniture. But I also started helping other homeowners review HOA documents before disputes escalate. Because here's what I learned. Bullies rely on silence. They count on exhaustion. They expect emotion. What they don't expect is patience, documentation, and someone willing to play the long game. Vivian thought she could bury us in fines before Christmas. Instead, she buried her own career. All because she couldn't leave two retirees alone. So let me ask you something. If someone kept pushing you, filing complaints, spreading rumors, trying to provoke a reaction, would you explode and give them what they want? Or would you do what we did? Smile, measure twice, and wait until the paperwork destroys them for you.